There have been 10,000 opinions about their quarterback in Indy. We'll get to that more later as we begin this hour with football. Football's been very, very good to me. But we're not going to start in Indianapolis. We'll work our way there later. But instead, we will discuss the always exciting trade deadline. Now, some of you are more excited about the election, which is on Tuesday, but we're a sports show, so stay in your lane. So instead, it's the trade deadline, and we discuss the big story. Will he or will he not be traded? We're talking about just outside Tobacco Road. My friends who listen in the Carolinas get upset when I say that. They don't like that. So we're not Tobacco Road. It's outdated. But Carolina is a poop fest. It's poopy time in Carolina, and they have provided us with some decent sports talk radio. You've got Bryce Young, who was the number one overall pick a couple years back, and he is set to start this weekend against the lowly New Orleans Saints. Oh, my God, they stink. And somehow New Orleans is favored by a touchdown. That's how bad the Carolina team is. Now, Bryce is also the focus of a lot of noise. It is not radio silence. There's a lot of noise on the radio. Chitter chatter. Whether or not he's going to be traded. So if you've not been following along, we've learned the Panthers are still contemplating, they're calculating the trade market for Bryce Young. Carolina is really supposedly trying to figure out what his value is. There are teams around the league right now interested, we are told, to see if they can be the team to reinvent Bryce Young. Because that always goes well, right? It always goes well when you do that, right? So let us discuss the question. Carolina is said to be estimating the value of Bryce Young on the trade market. How much is he worth? How much is he worth? So I've got candy bars, assembly line, and meatloaf. And we will combine all of these things together and be mused. We'll be bemused is what we will be. So first of all, Bryce Young is worth the Marcel in Brooklyn diet. Ramen noodles, hot water, and some Chef Boyardee to be named later. That's what he's worth. And the hot water is the key because Bryce Young at this point is lukewarm. Room temperature. And when you look at the resume, it's filled with all kinds. A bad resume, they say, is bad spelling, grammatical errors. That's the resume of Bryce Young. A lot of spelling mistakes and things like that. Young last provided flashy plays and improved his teammates' performance, elevated his teammates in Tuscaloosa, not in an NFL city. And when you are the number one overall pick, you are supposed to be the man. You can't be the man if you can't play like the man. Cannot do it. So think of this like candy bars, right? You want a Snickers bar, and after you say trick or treat, they give you the candy. And instead of getting what you want, you get a fun size version of the candy. You want a full size. That doesn't help your appetite. Too small, right? Much like Bryce Young is too small, overmatched in the NFL. But in all seriousness, the comp, which is rather obvious here, is when the 49ers traded Trey Lance, who had actually been drafted, I think it was number 3 overall, and they traded him to the Cowboys, and they got a 4th-round pick as compensation. So I would argue that the way Bryce Young has played, he's not even worth a 4th-round pick, but that's what Carolina's holding out for. Now, I do have concern here. I am worried that my Rams, who have to replace Matthew Stafford, are going to get into the business of acquiring Trey Young. I'm a little concerned. About this, or Bryce Young, not Trey Young. Well, yeah, I'd like them to get Trey Young, the basketball player, but instead Bryce Young. And look at the teams like Seattle. They don't have a quarterback. Geno Smith blows. The Dolphins, Tua, you can't rely on him. The Colts don't have a quarterback. Now, speaking of the Colts and a diminishing asset, boy, is this a diminishing asset. More chatter out of Indy. One NFL executive, of course not putting their name on it, told The Athletic, the old gray lady there, that the Colts did Anthony Richardson a disservice by starting him, during his rookie season. They said he was always a developmental player. He was always a project when they drafted him, and they shouldn't have played him. And the story, again, painting the picture that it's not fair, that Anthony Richardson got a raw deal. So I asked the esteemed panel, did the Colts do a disservice to Anthony Richardson? Did they do a disservice by starting him as a rookie and, of course, now publicly benching him here in year 2? And I'll go first here. I'm shaking my head no. This entire story to me is bonkers. It's right out of the assembly line. It's the epitome of a manufactured drama. The same reporters who are bashing Anthony Richardson because he fundamentally blows at football. He sucks, right? And so the same people that are writing things on social media and writing these blogs saying how terrible he is are now making this out to be some kind of Greek tragedy that he was benched. Richardson sucked at a time you cannot suck. Sunday afternoons, right? The Colts are going with a quarterback, for better or worse, who gives them a chance to win. I don't care how old he is. You make all the jokes you want. Joe Flacco is better at this point than Richardson. And it's stunning we're even at this point in the conversation. How about more accountability for the player? How about the player didn't do his job? Instead, you're blaming the coach and the team. And I don't doubt that Jim Irsay got involved in this, but Richardson has been completing less than 45% of his passes with all of the rules designed for offense. You've got one of the great supposed play callers in Shane Steichen as the coach, and you're completing less than 45% of your passes? Are you kidding? Now, Shane Steichen had to bench this cat, or else it would have fractured harmony in the locker room, because not only would the players have been upset because this guy quit, Richardson, took himself out of a game, but also the owner, Jim Irsay, wasn't happy. So actions have consequences, and so that's the way this works. All right, final thought. We head to the Pacific Northwest, big NFC West, Donnybrook, on Sunday. The Seattle football team and the LA Rams will play each other. Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith said he wants to improve his body language. Say what? Yeah. He's apparently too hot-headed. Says he's going to work on this, wants to keep his cool. He drew a taunting flag and was very open about his frustration on the sidelines, grumbling with coaches and teammates. Geno said, everyone's watching me, he said. So if I'm upset, they get a little antsy. So I just got to have a better poker face and just work on it. Big fan of Lady Gaga. So that's the money quote. Do you expect Geno Smith to all of a sudden find his poker face with the Seattle football team? So I am giving this one side-eye, right? As the arbitrator of sports talk radio justice, the motion is denied. It's the old Meatloaf song, what you see is what you get. Geno is 34 years old. Now, that is not old in the real world. You're still very young at 30, I believe, at 34. But it doesn't matter, right? In sports, you're old. And you're getting long in the tooth. He's played for 11 years, although most of those he didn't play because he's not very good. Geno Smith is set in many ways. The body language is saucy. He's got saucy body language. He's halfway decent, somewhat useful, and often a ramshackle quarterback in Seattle. And not someone that will take you anywhere other to the middle of the NFL draft.